My last few videos have been centered around the upcoming Elder Scrolls 6 game, but in this video I want to go way back in time and talk about the third game, Morrowind. In this video I'm going to investigate the game and come to a verdict. Is Morrowind worth playing in 2018, especially in the wake of the announcement of the 6th Elder Scrolls game? To begin with, it's important to note that Morrowind is distinctly different to other, more modern Elder Scrolls games. The combat, the graphics, the lack of voiced speech are all major limitations from the time period in which the game was made. So one of the biggest things to consider before playing Morrowind in 2018 is whether or not you can deal with these differences. I struggled with the game's outdated graphics personally, but I installed a graphics overhaul mod and that made it playable for me. So there might be mods out there to improve upon things you may consider outdated. To begin with, I'm going to go through some strengths of the game and reasons why you should actually play it. The game's story is a major reason why you should play Morrowind in 2018 if you haven't already. It is my personal favourite out of all the main quests of the Elder Scrolls games. There's a long build up to the final fight, and the antagonist isn't just straight up evil like Alduin. There's a degree of complexity and mystery to the story. The central quests concern the deity Dagothur, housed within the volcanic Red Mountain, who seeks to gain power and break Morrowind free from Imperial dominance. The world is also another major reason to pick up the third Elder Scrolls game. What it lacks in aesthetics compared to newer games, it makes up for in diversity, immersion, and sheer enjoyability. The world of Morrowind is on par with that of Skyrim for me. Both worlds are incredibly immersive and you are literally able to lose yourself in either world. The mushrooms, ashlands, various great houses, and more all make the world of Morrowind worth visiting, in my opinion. The characters of the third game are also pretty amazing. To begin with, the Tribunal appears so mysterious and ambiguous, as does Dagothur. When you finally meet the leader of the 6th House and Vivec, you have to decide whether or not you agree with them or disagree. This decision is furthered by the fact that quests preceding your meeting with Vivec specifically involve collecting and reading papers written by dissident priests. I think the characters in the game are so strong because they're lifelike. They are both good and bad, they're not simply black and white. Caius Cassades, for example, is supposed to be the mentor to the Nerevarine, but is addicted to drugs. All in all, I think I'd say that the characters simply feel a bit more developed and mature than most of the other characters are in the newer games. I think the world and the characters are in tandem with the true RPG style of Morrowind. There are consequences for choosing some skills over others, and it's difficult to end the game as being an expert in every field. In this sense, it's very similar to Fallout's New Vegas. You are effectively forced to become a mage, a warrior, a thief, an archer, or whatever. It's simply not like Skyrim, which had no real class system. I think it's a good idea to experience what a true RPG feels like before the release of the Elder Scrolls 6. Now I'm going to go through some general weaknesses of the game, negating from the notion that you should actually play it. I've already mentioned the graphics of the game. They will take some getting used to, and some people will not be able to play the game at all simply because the peripherals are so bad. This was certainly the case for me with regards to Arena and other earlier games. I just simply couldn't get into them. I have to be straight up and say the combat is the 3D equivalent to classical RuneScape. It has no finesse and is essentially just mashing buttons in the hope that you will defeat the enemy with either spell or sword or bow. Again, you may be put off by this. My final point, which is a bit ambiguous, is that Morrowind is a complex game. It might not be playable for those accustomed to more casual games like Skyrim or ESO. Morrowind is sort of like a cult classic. In the modern day, people appear to either really enjoy it or become disinterested in it after a few hours. A trend that we have seen with Bethesda in recent years is that they have made their games more casual so that they are more appealing to a wider and more varied audience. Morrowind, I would argue, is a much more esoteric game. It's kind of like a book in relation to movies that are based off that book. Some people will bother to read the book after watching the newer, simplified movie, whereas others will not because they simply don't like it and can't get into it. This is very similar to Morrowind. People who have only played Oblivion and Skyrim might have a very hard time actually getting into the game. Personally, Morrowind is a 10 out of 10 must play for me, but for a more casual gamer, perhaps it's an 8 or even 7 out of 10 because the graphics and the engine are just so limiting, you just might not be able to get into the game at all. Still, I think it is at least worth a try. You should try at the very least to play Morrowind, because if you do get into it, it is an experience that you're never going to forget. Anyway guys, thanks for watching this video and I'll see you in the next one, and don't forget to check out my channel for more Elder Scrolls content.